Oh, God. Matt, wake up. Review time. Matt, come on. It's already started. We got it. We watched a movie today.
Boring movie.
George Biddle.
CPA.
The Accountant of the Open Road. Wasn't interesting.
Nope.
What we've got? Matt, they're unsubscribing!
Don't even joke about that!
Need to get your attention. So, George Biddle CPA. It's a movie about an accountant and the IRS. Done. That's it. Review.
We don't even need a minute for plot on that one.
No. Actually,
That is the plot.
I couldn't do a minute for plot on this.
Because there is none. I mean...
Yeah. It's... Okay, well, here. I'm not going to restrict myself to a minute, but I'm going to move quickly here. There's this guy named George Biddle. He just moves himself around the country doing little tax deeds around the country, obviously. So
Even though it's really obviously just around one town.
It's just California. It's mid-California. So he just goes around doing things to get people out of, like, the IRS trouble or whatever. And that's the whole thing. That is the entire thing. There's a overarching plot in where he's battling an old rival who now works at the IRS.
Rival from high school, mind you.
Yeah, well, elementary school they started.
But this is like the... Alright.
It's a bad movie.
The symbology. Wow, did I just take a leaf out of the Boondock Saints? The symbolism, if there is any real symbolism here, this is literally a wet dream from a libertarian. We're not saying anything against political views right now. We're just saying how unskilled and unyieldingly crafted this movie was.
Okay, now hold on. Obama Nude.
Yeah, you remember that piece of shit.
That was right wing and then 45 more miles to the right. That was really to the right. Now this one is not that bad. Not even close to being that extreme.
And to be honest, actually, Obama Nude was a bad movie. This is just a really boring movie. I mean, the acting is not good at all. Like, not at all. I mean, none of these people know how to act, and actually, it's not really well written and all that kind of stuff.
But all the time.
Yeah.
As the way it compares to Obama Nude is that it's both just sort of a...
They have political agendas.
Obvious political agendas, whereas Obama Nudes was, Obama's the Antichrist. Can't you see it? Here's an exact way of how it happened, him making a deal with the devil. But then this one's more like taxes. I think the overarching message is, while taxes can be used for good,
taxes are still bad.
They're still bad. I mean,
they're bad for you. Now, alright, and I'm going to put the link right down here. There's a great little animation that I believe is called, like, I'm not sure exactly, like The Death of the American Dream or something like that. It's like a 15-minute long thing about how the the United States Treasury, how the Federal Reserve, how the Mint, how all that works, and how basically everything is off. It's just, is it a very libertarian viewpoint? Yeah. Is it a very libertarian viewpoint? Yes. But you know what? It makes a good point. It does it in a very entertaining way, actually, and also it doesn't seem overbearing. This is the exact opposite of that. There's no subtlety, and also. All right, let's just go bullet by point.
All right, well, hold on. But before you go on to that, I don't think it was that bad. You're saying there's no subtlety. Well, I don't think that they went in and just were like, okay, we got to get this across in a very subtle way. I feel like they were just like, yeah, this guy doesn't like taxes.
It's a satire.
Yeah,
I mean, like it's supposed. I mean, it's labeled under comedies, and like. One, it's not funny. It garnered a couple chuckles.
It had a few, especially in the very end of the third act.
Yeah, but we'll get to that in a minute. And there's only one real reason, is because it's basically the equivalent of the...
Don't tell him.
Alright. Well, there's a great movie that I'm going to compare this to, which actually is a really good social satire. But let's move on. Okay. Let's go this bullet point by bullet point.
I guess, should we cover the acting then?
Acting first. There isn't really any.
It seems like a bunch of local people.
I really think
friends
it
of the
is.
director,
or at least he held like a local casting call or something.
Yeah.
All the main people, I'm not sure about everyone, but all the main people we looked at, they have no other acting credits. This is the only film they've been in. Now, granted, this movie was made in 2012, so it's recent, so all these people could have been new to the scene, which is very doubtful. But, no, just...
I mean, I understand.
Well, who do you think is the most competent actor of the entire
Competent actor,
thing?
the main villain.
The main villain.
I think he's the most
Only
competent.
because he is so unbelievably hammy in his performance.
Exactly. He's so hammy, but compared to everyone else, where they're just underplayed like your average Joe Blow, just like, hey,
They have the same
yeah,
face.
well, we can get you out of these taxes by filling out a K-2-1 form. That's going to mark your land as an official reserve. Oh, God, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, half the dialogue in this movie is just them reciting tax laws and tax loopholes and stuff like that. All right. Now, as I said about the animation, where it's funny at a lot of points too, it's really hard to make something as very dry and monotonous as tax laws seem fucking funny. And one of the major things is total commitment from the cast.
Yeah.
You don't have that here.
No. There was, what was it? Well, the whole thing is it's marked under comedy, so you have to wonder what parts of this was the director saying, hey, I need you to not care because of taxes, and that's just going to be funny to see the contrast between George's character, who does care about contacts, and the other person, or how much of it is just them not being able to act like they care. Just like, good job, George.
And there's random minor plots that have nothing to do with anything. There was this one plot about these triplets who are conjoined and they're fraternal.
I completely forgot about
Yeah,
that.
I know. Like it's because it's thrown in the last half of the movie. It's like there's these triplets who are fraternal triplets who are conjoined. How does that fucking work?
No,
that
wait, fraternal. Fraternal means that they're opposite genders. I think. No, I don't know. Point is, they're conjoined.
But the thing is, and none of them look alike. So like, the thing is though, like, and then also they hire like the sheriff to like take
Arrest
care
him because he's a nuisance, and there's a car chase.
and then it ends at the county line
because they're county sheriffs. That's
Yeah,
the whole thing.
that
They
completely
take the
works.
minute little laws and say like, "Oh, you're this county sheriff. Well, he crossed county lines, so obviously you can't chase him anymore."
Yeah, like that actually works.
No.
It's state lines where that actually has precedence, and then it goes from local police to federal.
And
Get your fucking facts straight.
that also works with, say, things like, I don't know, the tax laws that the whole movie is based around. They're doing things like, well, this pig here is here because some reason. I don't know what the reason was.
Oh yeah, there was no like. I don't.
It was something in the
They
food.
probably gave something. Yeah, like you know,
something in the food.
like the a plane spread pesticides on a field, and some of it
Right.
got into the feeding pastures, and thus it was having diarrhea and shitting all over the sidewalk. Like this is a legitimate plot
Oh,
point.
yeah. And so then he's just going on this whole thing about how he's going around town making, like, fake snow so that they can make a snowfall festival that will cause hazardous conditions in the summer, which will allow some very weird state law that allows them to have an 11 by 11 jump rope radius land for farm animals. It was like, okay, this stuff would be somewhat interesting if they were laws that we cared about in the smallest.
And also, if it had a major bearing on the overall plot.
That's the other, okay, though, something I dropped out of the plot. Like I said, this thing's a face-off between the IRS and George Biddle's CPA. The whole reason this happened was because of his childhood rivalry with Ronald?
I think it's Ronald or Ronnie Black.
Ron Black.
It's Black. Agent Black. Let's just call him Agent Black.
All right, Agent Black.
Of course his name is Black and he wears all black because he's
Scar
the
down
villain.
his eye.
Yeah. That he got from a paper cut. That he's like bleeding all over the place too.
Okay, so the main confrontation comes from Black. He's just terrorizing these local towns, these tiny little areas, with IRS stuff, saying like, "Oh, you need to fill out this form," and now you're in debt, and then George comes in and he comes and fixes it all. But apparently that was all a huge plot in order to get George to follow Ronnie and eventually meet up with him at his family farm and pillow factory.
A plot done by his mom, by the way.
I don't get it
To
at
save
all.
his mom's... None of it makes sense. Like, you can try to have a coherent plot involving something as unbelievably dry as tax law, but actually the one thing is, if you actually had like the tax law bits be set up for an alternative overarching plot, like in the movie Stranger Than Fiction, which kind of wraps into the whole story, which is a great movie by the way, but this isn't interesting.
No.
I doubt that this would be interesting to people who are actually accountants.
Well, yeah. See, the way that it works is the people who aren't interested in tax law, which I'm going to go ahead and assume is 99.9% of the general population, they don't really care when he goes on his little tirades. I mean, it's nice to see him fix whatever problems the IRS caused, because it's nice to see the IRS get it up the ass.
Yeah.
But
it's nice to see it for once.
Yeah.
Just like it is in the news right now, but we're not going to discuss that.
But you don't care about how he's doing it. Like, I don't know. I guess a good way to describe it would be MacGyver.
Yeah.
It's awesome to see him make those little contraptions and stuff out of random objects because, hey, you could do that too. You see this like paperclip and this battery and somehow he's made a shotgun.
It's just wow, how does that work?
Exactly. You're impressed by it because it's just tiny little things that turn into these awesome things. But then tax law, it's like, I don't care about those tiny little things. There we go. When it all comes together, I don't care about that big thing.
And you would think that when it comes down to successful writing, especially comedy writing, I just recently saw the other night the midnight release of This Is the End, the new Seth Rogen comedy, and I know I laughed my ass off. I thought it was hysterical. And then we went and watched this movie. Maybe it's because my funny bone senses was like going on overdrive because of that movie, that I didn't find this movie barely remotely funny in and of itself. But the fact of the matter is, a comedy writing is not just the overall thing, it's the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Every joke needs to be able to build on itself. One of the reasons why the movie Harold and Maude is one of my favorite films, one of my favorite comedies, is because all of the elements lead together to make the movie overall good. Overall, a very good film. This movie, it's so confusing. And, like, the thing is, like, alright, when it comes down to a comedy, especially a comedy that you're supposed to be able to relate and take a message from, like, going back to Harold and Maude, it's all about trying to find beauty in life. In trying to find your own life and trying to find, like, your own path and not trying to be so cynical about things. It's a great overall message, and it doesn't hammer it into you the entire movie. You need to be, like, an expert at tax law to find this movie at all relevant to your life.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like I said, 99.9% of people aren't interested in tax law. The 0.1% of people who are interested in tax law, they're going to sit there and say, like, that doesn't work.
Or else, like, that's not right.
That's not real.
I mean, we don't really know enough about economics and tax law to really refute any of the information given in this. And also, I guarantee that the laws that were all put in place and whatnot were only mainly because tax law changes per state.
Oh, yeah.
So that's entirely only devoted mainly to just that area.
California.
And also, as David's constantly said during the movie, it's all about fucking livestock. It's all farm animals.
The first side story is about that pig, as we mentioned. Then it goes into a cow ranching farm and the manure involved. And then it goes into man-eating mares, horses. It's all about animals. And then it goes back to his family farm, which is a chicken and pillow farm.
And guess what? Even after they solve that issue, it then falls on the issue of the dog.
The dog!
This guy is like a major... I wonder if he gives money to PETA.
Probably.
But it's like... It's all about animals to a degree. I'm like, and that's fine. Make it about animals instead of tax law. Make it a humanitarian movie about trying to make sure that these creatures have great living conditions and all that kind of stuff. What are you?
What it is a 5-minute short film filmed in 2000. Same title, same director, different cast, mind you. But it was a 5-minute short film that was completely silent. Not like music-wise, but no speech.
I think the only actual sound that they had in the entire thing was just when the car was driving
Yes,
by.
that's it. Car sounds and then background music.
Yeah, and that entire short was shot on film.
Good looking film.
It was pretty deep. I mean, to be honest, actually, I personally think that it was probably shot earlier than its release date on IMDb because it looks like a 90s film.
Because they had the calendar in the back when they pointed to it. It's tax day, 1999.
Oh,
yep.
Well, there you go. Well, the release date said 2001, so at least it is a 90s film and whatnot. And it looks like the film stock definitely looks 90s. It looks like something right out of Robert Rodriguez. Actually, the music sounds like it too. Mm-hmm. Sounds like you're watching El Mariachi.
But it's literally the first scene.
Yeah, it's just the first scene.
The first scene of the movie was adapted from this short.
And it's done well. I mean, like, is it really hilariously funny and whatnot? No, but...
But it had an equal amount of jokes for how long it is.
And to be honest, it's funnier than the beginning of the feature-length film.
Because of the silence. When there's a part where he comes into this diner, and he's just listing off tax codes so that he can give them all these benefits. He's like, this, and he starts like overlapping himself as if he was talking for like hours on end. In the short film, he comes in, and since there's no speech, it's all done in little cards.
Yeah.
And shows a little bit of tax code, and then a little bit more tax code, and then finally a huge block of text.
Just keeps going bigger and bigger.
And that's funny to see the visual, how much he's talking.
And it goes on. Yeah, it goes on it goes quickly, too. So the point, it's obviously not trying to get you to read all of this information.
Exactly.
The fact of the matter is, regardless of what he's telling you, the end result is the fact that they don't owe actually any money when it comes down to the taxes. They don't have that same subtlety, that same impact with the feature-length version. As a matter of fact, they overdo the joke.
They real overdo the joke. But we're running out of time, so I just want to move on to the next bit. I think we've covered that it doesn't do comedy very well.
Yeah, the writing is... It's not horrible, but at the same time, it's not effective at all.
It's coherent.
It is coherent.
It definitely has a plot. It's just not interesting.
There's way too many subplots, though.
And I'm going to move off camera for a second. The film is slightly overexposed.
Just a little bit. Every fucking shot in this movie is so overexposed. Ugh! You know, the funny thing is, the short film actually wasn't overexposed at all. It was completely competent.
Now, it's evident what they were trying to do. They were overexposing to give a feeling of heat. Like it's a hot summer day.
I mean, and it's in the middle of California and whatnot. It's hot there. It's very hot.
It gave it somewhat of a more modern Western feel, sort of thing.
And there's definitely elements, especially when it came down to the fucking man-eating horses. I'm like, there's so much elements to it because there's an entire sequence where he builds a contraption to go on the front of his car to lasso the horses. Oh yeah, the chase sequence for that, they obviously couldn't film something like that, so they just said, like, one long...
It's like, ensue chase scene. And then they just showed a bunch of clips of horses in the car. End chase scene.
And then they're all of a sudden completely wrangled
It's like,
up.
well, that was sure some hard work there.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, the overexposure. It was a bit annoying at times, but...
and then it got to be underexposed, where you couldn't see jack shit.
Whenever they were outside, they went for the really hot feeling. They went for overexposed. Whenever they went inside, which wasn't that often, but when they did, other side of the spectrum, they just... What the fuck's going on? I can't see... Are they conjoined twins?
Oh, yeah. And more annoying than the cinematography was the fucking editing.
Wait. No, actually, go ahead. The editing was fun.
The editing...
It started off as being interesting.
Yeah, because, like, there was lots of wipes and whatnot, but at the same time, lots of split screen and something. And also, if they only had that for every so often, it would have been okay. Because that's kind of like how it was with Requiem for a Dream. It didn't have the hip-hop montages all the fucking time. This did it in every goddamn scene.
Every time he walked up and said, "Can I take a look at your books?" Just split screens all over the goddamn place. The other thing
And I love how he can literally go through all these people's books in 10 minutes.
Every time.
Every time.
10
minutes. 10!
Which is supposed to show his skill, but
I know when my mom does her taxes and whatnot, it takes like 5 fucking hours just to go through her shit. Imagine going through company records, especially for something like a manure farm.
Sound.
Disregarding the fact that one of the shots has boom mic penetration. Ugh.
If I knew where the microphone was on this camera, I would tell you what it sounded like. But just try to imagine. Matt, start talking.
The sound is a little bit incoherent because of the constant blowing wind. If you didn't get that, the sound is a little hard to hear because of the constantly blowing wind. Not only on top of that, the sound levels are never right, the music is way too fucking loud, the music is playing over every goddamn scene in this movie. This movie can't shut the fuck up for 5 fucking seconds.
So yeah, the editing kind of got to us a little.
I mean, it was okay at first. And to be honest, actually, there's plenty of actual shots, even though
I'm talking about sound editing too.
Yeah, I mean, like, the sound wasn't awful, but...
It could have been points. Yeah, I mean, we were no better
when we were first starting out. Yeah. And this is like when I was like 18, 19 years old and whatnot, when we were starting to make short films and feature lengths. Like, our first feature-length film has horrible sound in it. And a lot of that stuff was because we had to use the onboard mics for the cameras.
Which is what they probably did.
This is no excuse. There's no excuse for the fact that also the director, from what we remember saying, he was on the visual effects teams for movies like Shrek, for movies like The Avengers.
He works at ILM, Industrial Lights and Magic. So yeah.
None of this. None of this.
I guess the last thing we have to talk about is the end of the third act, because we said we'd get to it.
Alright, now... if any of you guys are familiar with Dr. Strangelove, it's probably one of the most brilliant, comedic, social satires about communism and the Cold War that you could probably ever watch. And also, it's my second favorite comedy, right next to Harold and Maude. But the thing is, though, the original ending of that movie was supposed to be a big-ass pie fight in the war room.
That's what
this is the equivalent.
They walk into the pillow factory, and a guy starts shooting paper out of this like briefcase or a printer or something because he works for the IRS.
Another reason why I think this was inspired by Robert Rodriguez, because that's right out of fucking Desperado.
So then he's like shooting papers all over the place, and then they realize they're in a pillow factory. So they start fighting back with pillows against all the IRS agents. And then the queen of the taco trucks...
well, the IRS, there's more IRS agents that come in, and they cover the place in red tape.
Yeah. See what they did? Yes. And then Queen of the Taco Trucks, Hippolyta, and her one companion.
Oh yeah, we forgot about the taco truck ladies.
I don't even want to talk about it.
There's not enough time to talk about the taco truck ladies.
Taco truck ladies, you really want to see? Go ahead and watch it. But they start throwing flour tortillas, just... and so the pillows are flying everywhere, feathers are raining down from the sky, papers are going everywhere. The little hole punch clippings are just falling out like
shells and whatnot. I mean, to be honest, actually, that is where the couple chuckles of the movie really came from.
Like, wow, this is actually getting mildly entertaining, because it came just after the longest scene of them just tax fighting. Someone saying, "Where did this money go?" Well, obviously it was covered here. Where did this money go? Covered here. This, here, this, here, this, here. 5 minutes of that, you get a little bit bored. And then they start shooting each other, and that's cool.
And I love how when people get injured by the papers and whatnot, they're just paper cuts all over their face.
Everywhere. That's how the one guy got his scar.
Yeah.
Paper cut during a math off in high school against George Biddle. Anywho.
I just no. I mean, just... And the funny thing is, this comes right the bumfuck out of nowhere. It's not like... because the rest of the movie, even though it was done with a degree of realism besides the city council members in the very beginning of the damn thing, like, Why? How in the world is that? Like, all the rest of them, even though they're overly caricatured and stuff like that, there's still a degree of reality to the whole situation. This has nothing. Like, all disbelief is thrown out the fucking window.
Okay, so I think we basically covered everything. We're running out of time. So, Matt, final thoughts.
Final thoughts? This movie is just a really, really boring film about tax law that tries to be endearing, that doesn't even really try to be endearing, actually. There's no endearing aspects of this. And also, especially toward the end of the movie, they get overly preachy about how taxes are to be used and whatnot, and one of the solutions is levying a tax, and people are like, where did I go wrong? But taxes! As if taxes are really bad. Newsflash, people, even though I'm not a huge fan of paying taxes myself, they help make the infrastructure of our country fucking work.
Okay, I guess my turn. Yeah, like he said, that's the whole moral of the story in the end. It's like taxes are just a tool. They're not inherently bad. They can be used for good, and that's helping the betterment of society, which kind of overrides the entire hour and 40 minutes before that, but okay. In the end, this movie, I guess, recommend it? I
recommend the animated short.
Yeah, the animated short, definitely. Just because it's 5 minutes, and it's okay, it's just fun.
And it actually expresses, I mean, like, well, the animated short about, like, you know, the American Dream and whatnot. Yeah, it's like a 15-minute short. Does exactly everything that this movie tries to do in a far more effective way.
Yeah. As for, like, the short that it was based off of.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's 5 minutes. You're not going to waste any of your time.
Yeah, I mean, it kills 5 minutes, and does it... Do you wish for that 5 minutes back? Not necessarily.
With this movie, I'm going to have to say I recommend it only if you...
If you don't bore easily.
Yeah, if you don't bore easily. Like, if you're just sitting there... You know what? This is the movie you need playing in the background of your movie. If you need something that, like, nobody's going to recognize... This, because it doesn't have an IMDb rating. It's off the grid, man.
No Rotten Tomatoes rating. The only rating we found on it was for Netflix, and it was 1.7.
1.7, so...
And there's only 5 user reviews on Netflix, too, which was fucking surprising. Even Obama Nude has way more than that.
So, overall, I'd say I would not recommend it unless you just need some mindless filler. Okay? And I guess that's it. I'm sorry, phone went off.
Call him back, I guess. I thought I told you to turn the fucking thing off.
I turned it off. I just...
Rule number 1, you never turn the goddamn phone on when you're in the goddamn movie theater.
Yeah, hi. You just called? Yeah, okay. 1 second. It's the IRS. They're wondering why you haven't paid taxes on the show.
Hello? But we don't really earn revenue. No, the show's not really that popular. No, we have we have more people who leave bad comments than good ones.
Please don't do that.
What do you mean you're shutting us down?
Some more, it's tricky.